Hi, this is Sean, and this channel's called Wolf Dog Moon. And today we're going to be doing a review of the Sword of Shannara. If you like this kind of content, smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more, ring the bell for notifications, comment down below, and share with your friends. Alright, let's get into this. So, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. Now, I'm going to be doing it a little bit different than I usually do it. So, let me know what you think. And so, let's get into this. So, The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks is an awesome, epic fantasy novel. And it basically takes place in a mythical kind of version of Earth, sort of like Middle Earth of in Lord of the Rings, except in Shannara, it's called the Four Lands. Now, right off the bat, with this story, if you're a big fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings, then I think this, and you've read that book or you've seen the movies, for example, I would highly recommend The Sword of Shannara. What it does essentially, and Myra just let you know what she thinks. She always has to do that. So she also likes The Sword of Shannara. Now, similar to The Lord of the Rings in a lot of ways, The Sword of Shannara it's like one of the first awesome fantasy novels to come out after The Lord of the Rings. And so it definitely pulls a lot of inspiration from The Lord of the Rings. So, like I said, backing up a little bit, if you really like The Lord of the Rings and that style of fantasy, and you have elves and all that, and dwarves, and you also like a grand journey, this epic hero's journey that takes place in The Lord of the Rings, with Frodo having to go on a quest to destroy the One Ring, then I think that The Sword of Shannara is going to be perfect for you. What essentially the Sword of Shannara is, it's like, the way I look at it is, Terry Brooks loved The Lord of the Rings. So you can tell he has a great passion for Tolkien's works, and it really comes through in this opening book, and what ends up being this awesome, epic, grand saga in this Shannara world. If, for example, if I would definitely recommend this book for any fantasy lovers, but especially if you like The Lord of the Rings. Now, let's get into the Sword of Shannara and what makes it so awesome. Now, basically, the premise of the Sword of Shannara is you have this peaceful place called Shady Vale, and not that dissimilar to the Shire with the hobbits. It's this idyllic place where you have woodsmen, and it's very foresty, and there's they're cutting wood, and it's a small village where everyone knows everyone, kind of thing. And you have this character, Shay Omsford, and his brother Flick. Now, Shay Omsford is half elven, and so you have that interesting thing right off the bat. Is something special about him, and sure enough, this dark figure comes into Shady Vale, and his name is AlAnon. And now AlAnon, unlike, for example, in The Lord of the Rings, you have the Gandalf character. He's this benevolent paragon archetype. What's interesting about the Shannara is that AlAnon, he's more of an imposing, forbidding figure, and he's this druid type warrior. He's like a warrior kind of spiritual force in a way. He's like ancient as the trees sort of thing. Now, backing up a little bit, back when I was in high school, I had been reading a lot of like the books by R.A. Salvatore, the Crystal Shard, and those are also good books. And I'll probably do a review on those at some point. But my brother had one of his teachers. I think he was the AutoCAD teacher, the drafting and stuff. He and his friends were reading these Shannara books. So he had recommended the book to my brother, and he kept pestering my brother, you have to read this book. You like the Lord of the Rings. You must read this book. And he kept pestering my brother. And so my brother read the book, and he couldn't stop talking about it. So finally I was like, all right, I'll read this book. And at the time I was a lifeguard at a campground, and many times if it rained and stuff, or if the weather wasn't cooperating, I could just sit and wait for someone to show up to swim. And in the meantime, I was reading some novels and stuff. And so I started reading the Sword of Shannara. And right away, right from the first chapter, I was hooked. So you get to go on this grand journey, this awesome hero's journey. There's all these surprise characters, because essentially there is this great evil, this long dead warlock lord, who once was a druid of Paranor, and he was twisted and corrupted by this dark magic and the delving into secrets, and the delving into too deep into the arcane, and it twisted his mind and polluted and corrupted his soul. And he thus is this imposing, not that dissimilar to Sauron in the Lord of the Rings. And so basically AlAnon shows up to tell Shay that Amsford that you have this there's an important quest that you must go on, and thus begins the journey. It's what's great about this story is you have Shane Amsford, who is is something special and different about him, but then his brother, it's not really his brother, because the family in Shady Vale, Flick Amsford, parents take in this Shay Amsford. And so you have Flick, who is like they're brothers for all intents and purposes, even though they don't share the same blood. And so Flick joins the quest as well. And then as they progress out of Shady Vale, they find out that the world is a much different place outside of Shady Vale. And so along the way, they meet all kinds of awesome characters and fight. In the Shannara, unlike the Lord of the Rings, so in the Lord of the Rings, you have the enemies are orcs and goblins and stuff like that. That's very Tolkien. Well, in the Shannara, the monsters, they're demons. So the Shannara series with Terry Brooks, he doesn't mess around with what you're facing. It's great evil. They're fearsome demons, and they have to be defeated. I mean, you have these demonic wraiths. You have all kinds of terrible enemies as they have to progress towards the ultimate goal. The book is called The Sword of Shannara for a reason. And so I don't want to spoil this, but I consider this a must read. It's a definitive work in terms of, okay, you have the Lord of the Rings, and after that, the Sword of Shannara, in my opinion. So you can't go wrong in a lot of ways. You especially, and it's good for any age group, because the one thing with Tolkien, his writing style can be, it has a more high writing style in terms of like has kind of a, I don't know if Greek myth or like a folk style, like the Odyssey or Gilgamesh, like what's that book, Beowulf. It has a little higher writing style that can be a little bit tough to read, and some like just as a page turner. Whereas the Sword of Shannara, what is cool about it is you get essentially the Lord of the Rings, but the writing style is a little bit more direct, a little bit more straightforward in terms of understanding it. So it'd definitely be a good book for younger readers and any reader, pretty much. Now, the other thing with the Sword of Shannara that's awesome is this is the first book, so it really, although it harkens back definitely to the Lord of the Rings, what it does really well is it establishes this other place, this fantasy, the Four Lands, and it sets up for what eventually ends up being this grand story, this grand epic saga over a number of books. So with this, once you read the Sword of Shannara, you get to go to the next book, which is called the Elfstones of Shannara. And then after that, one of the best books in the fantasy genre, in my opinion, that I've ever read, which is called the Wish Song of Shannara. So what the Sword of Shannara does is it basically sets this new place. It's sort of like Middle Earth with Tolkien, but with Tolkien you only got the one book, the Lord of the Rings, and then you of course you got the Hobbit, and that's pretty much all you got. So with the Sword of Shannara, Terry Brooks sets up a similar kind of world and right from the get-go, and then he takes it on this grand epic where you have tons of books to read. So this is one I consider it a must read, and also if you like the Sword of Shannara, you're in for a treat because you have tons of books to read. You can basically just read Terry Brooks, and the way he sets up the story arcs, there's like, I don't want to spoil it, so if you haven't read it and you're thinking of reading it, you could stop right here because this might be a little spoilerly, but I'll give you a second. Alright, so I'm going to get into it. Now, he has like sort of like 100-year spans, or he has large gaps of time between each book. So you have a new set of characters in this Shannara world and new enemies to face. So that's how I would put it, just to make it basic. But getting back to the Sword of Shannara, it is an awesome book. It's I consider it one of the best fantasy novels, and it, like I said, it sets up for this grand story arc that you get to read, and it plays out over tons of books, and they're all really good. So I hope that this video finds you having an amazing day. Comment down below. Let me know if you've read the Sword of Shannara, and let me know if you like this new format for reviews. And then in the meantime, we hope that you have a blessed day. Signing out.